Welcome back to some new I Do Work Here lady stories, where people get mistaken as non-employees. I hope you have a great day. The first story is called A Bad Cat Call. Right after college, I moved home to run the daily operations of my parents' business. They owned some apartment complexes that were fully furnished and rented on a weekly or monthly basis. Our usual tenants were traveling doctors and nurses, or oil and gas guys. One of our complexes had half furnished units like this and half unfurnished normal apartments that are on a standard lease. I was in charge of all of the day-to-day: payroll, scheduling maintenance, cleaning, showing units, paying bills, collecting rent, etc. It was my second week there, and I was still learning who our long-term tenants were. I was standing by my car in the parking lot, about to leave, when one tenant drove by and yells at me from his car, "Girl, you got a nice booty." I was pretty shocked at how brazen he was, so I just got in my car and left. I could see him watching me drive away too. I told my parents in maintenance about what happened, and one of our maintenance guys had to tell him, in front of his girlfriend, that I was the new property manager, and that if I had any more issues with him, then I would evict them. The next story is called I'm the Teacher. This happened about 2 months ago. I'm a freshman English teacher. For whatever reason, I look young for my age, though I'd argue not high school age. Between that and my style of dress, I'm often confused for a student by adults who don't know me and student aides. Since I'm at a new school this year, it happens a significant amount. The funniest instance of this confusion though was when we were testing a few months ago. I was assigned to Proctor, which is just doing nothing but watching the kids take a test to make sure they aren't cheating. One of our admins, Miss A, who I had emailed numerous times for a variety of reasons, comes in, looks around and leaves. I shrug it off, thinking she was just checking to see how many students were still testing, and go back to the most boring task ever. A few minutes later, the door opens and another admin, Miss B, pops her head in. She looks around, makes eye contact with me, and signals for me to step into the hall. I do so and see Miss A standing there. Miss B looks at me and asks, "Have you ever met Miss A before?" Confused, I respond, "Not officially, though I have emailed her a few times." Miss B nods and turns to Miss A and motions to me. "Miss A, this is Miss OP. She is, in fact, a teacher." Miss A looked so embarrassed. Come to find out, when Miss A first stopped in, she thought I was a student and ran to Miss B, freaking out about how there was no teacher in the room proctoring the test. A huge no-no. Miss B, who had confused me for a student at the beginning of the year, knew immediately what happened. We all laughed about it, and I told Miss A that it was okay, since it happens all the time, and we went back to our testing duties. The third story is called Get a Job. I was assigned to Sam's Club right at the peak of 2020, and it was as bad as you'd expect. I lived in a very conservative area at the time, and everyone was acting like a baby over mask enforcement, but that wasn't the issue in this case. Basically, I had stepped off my post to use the restroom. As I was leaving, this dude came in with a ton of clothes, walking right by me, in an obvious security form, and a huge sign that says, "No merchandise beyond this point." So with this being my job, I naturally said, "Sir, you cannot bring merchandise in the restroom." This dude seriously turns back to me and says, "You know, why don't you get a job and stop harassing me?" I then point to my badge and the security logo on my jacket and reply, "This literally is my job." He continues arguing, claiming he needs a dress room and all that. The store never had them to begin with. The entitlement was unreal. The next story is called Beggars Can't Be Choosers. The other day I was outside my work office block in the city center on my smoke break talking with my workmates. It's quite a nice day, so we are all enjoying the weather. No coats or jackets on, and our work passes on lanyards around our necks quite obviously. This is the city center. There's not too much traffic, pedestrian or otherwise. There's a large park by our office where a fair amount of homeless people gather to drink, etc., but not too much else around. It's pretty obvious from where we are standing that we work for the office building. It's also not a public building. You have to have a pass to get past the door. And there's no real need why anyone who doesn't work in this building would be standing outside of it, although where we stand is technically public land. A homeless seeming guy comes over and asks for any spare change. We didn't have any cash and told him that. He then asked if we could spare a smoke. All my friends do the obligatory pat down and excuses of last cigarette etc. I feel kinda bad for the guy as he was polite upon asking, so I offered him mine. I passed the guy the whole pack to take a cigarette from, but kept a keen eye on him as he did look a bit flighty and I didn't really want him running off with basically a fresh pack. The guy looked at the package, pulled a disgusted face and started moaning about the brand of tobacco to me. Could you not afford anything better? He asked. It's not a cheap brand. My friend and I exchanged a look of, is this guy serious? Then I shrugged and told him, I like what I like, I guess. He then asked me if I had any other cigarettes he could have instead. I was baffled. I'm not some sort of cigarette vending machine. I laughed and said, no sorry, that's all I have. If you don't want them, I'm sure you can ask someone else. He mumbled something I didn't really hear and took 2 cigarettes out of the box. Cheeky, but whatever. He lit one of the cigarettes and then jumped up from where he was sitting on the wall and spluttered and screamed, what the heck, they are manful. He threw the box at me, yelling, what the heck, manful, why don't you just get a job? I pointed to my lanyard and said, what? I literally work right here. And with that he walked off, still smoking my cigarettes. And he was shouting, whatever, just get a job, you freak, get a job. Leaving me to pick up the box and stare after him in complete shock. Later, my friend said, he obviously wasn't aware. Beggars literally can't be choosers. The last story is called Cut the Line. I just received the forms for this year's food festival and I was reminded of what happened last year. After the first lockdown, the mayor of my city decided to organize a food festival in August. Because it was a success, it has become an annual event. I've taken part in both of them and planning to take part this year also. While most participants go with tried and true handheld recipes, I use them to try new things. That maybe update my menu. As a crew, we had the experience of the previous year of what to expect. I had gone with one tweak of a standing recipe I had. Pulled pork sandwiches and one new one. The new one was a sandwich with smoked sausage, grilled onions, peppers and eggplant, and a feta cheese sauce. Since the opening hours for the festival were 11 to 11, we planned on having a 3-man crew. 2 cooks and 1 apprentice on site with enough food to cover the rush hour of lunch. And we planned to restock when the crew changed, at 5. If they needed anything, they would give us a call and we would bring it from the shop. We were about 500 yards away. That fateful August day, we received a call from the crew around 1 that they were running low on vegetables and cheese sauce. Apparently, a cruise ship had anchored outside of the city's port and had debarked most of their passengers for 12 hours in the city. And most of them hit the food festival. So I grabbed a portable fridge, loaded with wax and sauce, and head to the stand. Having a pass, I moved fast through the entrance. 1 entrance and 1 official exit for both staff and visitors, but I catch some glass. As I stepped inside the food court, I noticed that almost every stand had a big line in front of them. As I moved past our line to reach the stand's door, I hear people shouting, "Hey, where are you going? Get back in line." I'm almost at the door when someone grabs my shoulder, which for various reasons is not a good move. I turn around to see a grey-headed older man, dressed in classic tourist attire. Light yellow shirt, khaki shorts, white socks and sandals and a hat. Tourist still holding my shoulder. "You can't cut the line like this. People are waiting. First, remove your hand. Second, I need to cut the line. No, you need to go back in line." At that point, one of my cooks is almost hanging over the counter, waiting for the ingredients, and I'm starting to lose my temper. But I give it another try. I need to go in there too. The tourist was now red in the face and shouting, "No, you need to get back in line and wait for your food." Young people these days. Well, that was it for trying. Time for my inner Neanderthal. Me forcibly removing his hand from my shoulder. Me not cut line. You know, eat. Gigi. He looks at me shocked when finally my cook shouted, "Hey boss, can I have the stuff now?" I handed him the fridge and told him not to sell to that guy. My cook's reply, "I know better than to feed wild animals." Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.